Dawn on a wooden slipway, hammer taps in the distance, water lapping, a fragment of a boat song rising and falling. You can almost smell the resin and wet timber. Who shapes the boats that carry a nation's daily life? Welcome to Ancient Echoes. I'm James Bradley, and today we follow the line from tree to keel, from chant to launch, meeting the people whose hands keep Cambodia's waterways moving.
And I'm Samnang Bradley. We're joined by three remarkable guests. Master Vanak, who's been making boats since he left his apprenticeship at 12. Sophia, who cares for community timber and advises on sustainable sourcing. And Dr. Elena Torres, a maritime anthropologist who studies craft, ritual, and coastal lifeways. Today, we'll talk wood, shape, song, and the small economies that keep these boats afloat.
Quick note before we start. We'll describe techniques and materials, but we won't be publishing exact harvest locations or precise workshop coordinates. Our goal is to celebrate craft and point listeners towards ethical ways to learn and support. Ready? Let's begin at the tree. When I walk the riverine forests, I look for the shape of the tree, not just its height. Certain species like the old ironwood and local dipterocarps are preferred because the grain resists water and the trunk gives long planks. But the old rules matter. Never take the mother tree that shelters seedlings and rotate harvests so the forest can recover. We treat the wood with respect because a boat will carry families for generations. That idea of respect, the boat will carry families for generations, it makes the material feel like kin, not just timber. Sophia, how do those sourcing choices affect the boat's lifespan and shape? A dense plank from an older tree bends less and takes caulking better, so seams stay tight through the dry and wet seasons. Lighter woods are easier to work and cheaper, but they need more maintenance. When communities can choose, they often mix species, strong keels, flexible planks, a reserved wood for the carved prow. Those choices shape how the boat handles in the Mekong's changing moods.
Before we dive into lofting and joinery, Master Vanak, tell us about apprenticeship. How does someone learn to read a tree and then turn it into a hull?
When I was a boy, I followed an older builder who would tap a trunk, listen to the sound, then say whether the wood would sing as a hull or crack. My teacher let me hold the adze when I was small. Then when I was older, he let me carve the prow. Learning takes your whole body and a lot of seasons. You learn by doing, by listening to elders, and by repairing boats for the village market. Each repair is a lesson. I love that. Listen to the sound. Dr. Elena, your work connects these apprenticeship rhythms to ritual practice. How do songs and ceremonies thread into the craft? In many communities, building is never only technical. There are naming ceremonies for the boat, chants to bless the hull, and songs sung by women and men as they haul planks. These practices transform a pile of timber into a social person, something entrusted with safety and memory. The songs pace the labor, but they also encode stories: who owned the wood, which river the boat will serve, and what protections are requested for crews and passengers.
That brings us to the workshop itself. Planking, caulking, lofting. Master Vanak, could you walk us through a typical build day, but in a way a listener could picture? Maybe focus on one moment that captures the craft.
Early morning, the team spreads the keel on low trestles. We mark the lines from a remembered shape. No heavy drawings, just a trusted eye. The adze sings and flakes wood like peeling fruit. When we join planks, we test the seam with wet rags and push caulking fibers in until the joint breathes and holds. There is a sound when a seam is true. It is a soft, settled click, and everyone quiets to listen. That sound tells you the boat will be honest in the water. Listeners, that soft, settled click, we're leaning on sound design to help you feel it. We won't give building blueprints, but we will offer spotting tips so you can respectfully identify boats and their uses from a distance. Yes, 3 quick spotting tips. First, river skiffs are usually flat-bottomed and narrow, built for shallow water and quick turns. Second, long-tail designs have raised sterns and a long, slender profile, made for speed on open water or tidal estuary work. Third, flat-bottom ferries are broad and boxy, built for carrying rice sacks or people across channels. Look at the prow shape and the plank overlap to guess regional influences and use.
And a listener etiquette tip. If you're shoreside and curious, don't walk into a workshop unannounced. Wave, ask permission from a distance, and offer to buy a small item or a meal in exchange for time. Respect the pace of work. This is someone's living and their heritage.
Sophia, you mentioned earlier the idea of boats as kin. What actually happens at a launch? A launch is noisy and tender. Families gather, elders sprinkle rice and water along the keel, incense may burn, and someone, often a respected elder, gives the name aloud, asking for good passage. There are protective chants and sometimes a short song to steady the hull. People bring offerings, small cloths, fruit, sometimes a loose coin hung on the prow. Visitors should stand back, let the ceremony happen, and if invited, accept tea with humility. I remember one launch where a child danced on the shore and the whole workshop laughed. The boat had a name from the grandmother, and when we slid it into the river, everyone felt lighter. That is the reason we carve the prow, not decoration only, but a face for the boat to meet the water. After the launch, we sing a short verse, then the boat goes to work. That laughter matters anthropologically. Ritual makes risk manageable. Naming and blessing are social contracts. The community accepts responsibility, and the boat is socially integrated. For researchers and visitors, the ethical point is clear. Observe, listen, and ask if you may record or photograph. If the community says no, respect that boundary. Let's move to repair markets, those bustling yards where boats come when the storms or seasons take their toll. Master Vanek, what's the repair season like, and how are modern pressures changing that work? Repair season is constant. We see leaks after the rains, plank wear after sandbars scrape hulls. People bring old hulls to borrow parts. Sometimes we splice in new planks. Modern engines are both blessing and trouble. They push boats faster and change hull shape needs. Some owners deck over the old boat to add an engine platform. We adapt, but we also argue quietly about when tradition becomes only a shell of itself.
Engine retrofits mean different stresses on hulls and sometimes faster degradation. Sophia, are there timber stewardship responses to this shift? Ways communities are planning for the new demands?
We teach young stewards to plan for mixed use. When people know a boat will be repurposed for an engine, they choose a stronger keel and rotate harvests so there is supply. We also help establish community seed plots for native species, so young trees are available for future needs. But funding and land pressure make this hard. That's why outside support for certified cooperatives matter. There's also a market response. Some communities form artisan cooperatives that agree to sustainable sourcing and transparent commissions. Buyers who commit to fair contracts allow workshops to plan and avoid the desperate harvests that harm forests. From a conservation perspective, anonymous donor models, where funds are channeled through trusted NGOs, can help without exposing sensitive sites to casual tourism. Okay, practical takeaway for listeners. If you want to support this craft, seek vetted artisan cooperatives, commission fairly, consider donations through conservation partners, and don't request exact harvest locations. Samnang, you have some visual resources on your channel. How can listeners deepen their understanding without harming communities?
I've put together short visual demos showing tools, safe viewing etiquette at launches, and non-sensitive repair footage. If you can, watch those before visiting a workshop so you know what to expect. And when you post photographs, avoid geotagging exact workshops. Tag Ancient Echoes and my channel if you want to share. We curate respectful reels that protect locations.
One more note on craft transmission. Apprenticeships are vulnerable when younger people migrate for work. Support that living apprenticeship. Sometimes a small grant to the workshop or commissioning a boat with a clause for training hours can make a difference. These creative funding models help skills survive economic change. If you visit, bring a small gift, a lunch, some tools if you know they are needed, money for a training fund, but always ask first. That kindness keeps the workshop going and honors the people who taught me to listen to wood. We promise spotting tips earlier. Quick recap for listeners who want to look carefully but respectfully. River skiff, flat, narrow, shallow draft. Long tail, raised stern, slender for speed. Flat ferry, broad, boxy, built to carry loads. Look from a distance, keep hands and lenses gentle, and don't block a launch or repair lane.
And 2 final ethical reminders. Don't publish harvest locations or exact workshop coordinates, and favor certified cooperatives or community-led projects when contributing. If you're unsure, ask us. Links in the show notes point to vetted organizations and to my visual demos.
Before we close, I want to say craft is a conversation across generations. Boats carry memory, names, songs, and whole livelihoods. Protecting that conversation means protecting trees, teachers, and the small economies that bind them together. Thank you for listening. If you ever come to a slipway, greet us with a smile. We will tell you a story and maybe let you feel the grain of a plank. That is the best way to learn. That's been our deep dive into Khmer boat building, keels and kin, wood and song, apprenticeship and ethics. A huge thank you to Master Vanak, Sophia, and Dr. Elena Torres for sharing knowledge, and to you for listening.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share a respectful photo or a short clip of boats, slipways, or repair yards, no geotags please, and tag Ancient Echoes and my YouTube channel. We curate community reels to celebrate craft without exposing vulnerable sites. And subscribe so you don't miss our visual demos that accompany this episode.
Let's unlock the echoes of history together. Thank you for joining us. Next time, we'll explore another facet of Khmer craft and the people who carry it forward.